Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I bring you another iconic vintage watch, and that's the Eterna Kontiki 20. Yes, finally I've managed to get one of these interesting watches for this video to share some impressions and a bit of experience around that model, the Eterna Kontiki. But let's begin with the historic context. We are in 1947. There, Thor Heyerdahl and his crew made a very famous expedition from South America to the Polynesian islands on a raft. And the goal was to prove that this task was possible ages ago with very simple equipment. And the raft was named Kon-Tiki. But they had some watches with them, Thor Heyerdahl and his crew, and they've chosen Eterna watches, not because of the brand, but because of the reputation. Back then, Eterna had the reputation to produce very robust watches, especially in terms of water resistance, and this obviously was then very important for that crew. And 10 years after that expedition, Thor Heyerdahl was famous because he traveled the globe with his experiences and his story around the Kon-Tiki expedition. So 10 years after that, Eterna realized that this is a great opportunity to dedicate a watch line to that raft, basically, and this was then the Eterna Kontiki, which was launched in 1958. And this was an entire line of watches. So the first Eterna Kontiki, then they had a Super Kon-Tiki and the mentioned Kontiki 20 I'm going to present you here. And so we're speaking late 50s, 60s and 70s. And the Kontiki 20 was produced during the 60s and 70s. And every Kon-Tiki model was some sort of a GADA watch, as we call it today. So go anywhere, do anything you want with it. And especially the 20, because the Kon-Tiki Eterna 20 was waterproof up to 200 meters. So 20 atmospheres, and therefore the name 20. But at the same time, they were elegant enough to be sported during a normal, in a normal environment, so to speak. And you found them for ladies and for men. And today the Eterna Kontiki is a very rewarding target for vintage watch collectors because it offers quite something. First, we have often very good dial conditions because of the water resistance. Second, the Eterna Kontiki, for example, has a case diameter of 37 millimeters, although it was produced in the 60s and 70s, which is quite rare. And so you definitely can sport that watch. Some of them are still waterproof, they have a good size, and they go a bit under the radar. So you will find them on eBay, you will find them on Chrono significantly, when you find them, under the 1K mark. They are very seldom seen on the original Frère bracelet. I don't know if my pronunciation is spot on here. It's a typical, some sort of beads of rice bracelet, but the corns are rather large. So this is a very rare combination. But the watch alone you definitely can purchase here and there under the 1K mark. And the watch I'm going to show you here in the Lightbox in a second was on eBay, and the auction ended, I think, Monday at 10 o'clock or something like that. And so I set an alarm clock for 10 o'clock, but I did the calculation wrong, and the auction actually ended at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so I missed it. And yeah, I went to work, bit grumpy, definitely a bit grumpy, because it was a wonderful watch, good opportunity, good price, good location. And then a friend called me some hours later, and he asked me, "Did you oversleep this morning?" And I said, yes, actually, yes, and I missed that auction. And then my friend said, "I bought it. I bought this Eterna Kontiki because I had told him about the auction, about the timing, and then, yeah, I had overslept basically, and he waited to the last minute, and then he grabbed that watch from eBay." And now let's go into the Lightbox. Now let's check out that watch. And here we are with our Eterna Kontiki 20, and as always, measurements first. Here we have a case diameter of 37 millimeters, a length lug to lug of 44.5. The height is 13 millimeters, including the crystal, and the lug width is 18. So a relatively generous size for a 60s or 70s watch. And inside is the caliber 1489K, which is basically an ETA 2433. And this is a very interesting movement. It was invented 1963, relatively slow with 21,600 beats, but it offers a very generous power reserve of 49 hours, which is quite something for this period of time, I think. And what's worth mentioning first is, of course, the case form. This is pretty iconic. I mean, today you see this all the time but back then it was just yeah, something fresh and used by Eterna, by Longines, for example, with these beveled lugs here. Excuse my hand, I had to work with ink, and so it was a bit of a mess. But you have a nice streamline to it. Nice streamline to the case. You see that the condition is not perfect. I should mention that this is a plexiglass crystal. Forgot that, very sorry. So plexiglass. And also interesting to mention and to look at is, of course, the iconic Kon-Tiki ship, or raft, I should say, here in gold on the case back. So very handsome thing, and gives the watch, yeah, a bit of a legacy, nice look, nice heritage, nice reference to the past, and a very interesting chapter in the past. So this is the case. And again, with 37 millimeters, perfectly wearable for a vintage watch. And now to the dial, also very clear Eterna with the 5 dots there, Kon-Tiki 20. Then you have a silverish dial color and a brushing, a vertical brushing. Very simple indices and hands. Here the legibility is really the king. Date, very classy on position 3. Their T, Swiss made T, so this means there was tritium inside or on the hands here. By the way, this lume looks a bit like superluminova, like a renewed lume, and you find this very often with older watches, that this older lume is replaced at some time with another substance. And another very interesting aspect is the crystal is marked with 5 little dots. I'm not sure if you can see this, but when you know your Omega, for example, then you know that there is a little Omega logo on the underside of the crystal, and it's the same thing with Eternas. There are 5 little dots, 5 little balls, and this is the sign that this is an original Eterna crystal, Eterna plexiglass crystal. And for some people this is important, and so I would check it if you have that watch, if the crystal is original. Okay, this watch was advertised as a tool watch, and it was pretty tough. It had a screw-down crown, and the screw-down crown nicely integrated into the case. So the watch comes without crown guards, but you see that there is a bit of an indentation for the crown, so that it is a bit out of the way. You cannot damage it so quickly. And interesting to note is also that it's a bit wobbly, and this is normal. You find the same mechanism on Vostok dive watches, for example, from the same time. Why? I have no idea, and to be honest, I don't know how to call this mechanism here. I've read it once, but I forgot about it. So this is normal. You don't have to freak out when you have this crown on your Kon-Tiki 20. Absolutely normal, will not damage the watch. And this caliber allows hand winding. Feels a bit like a modern ETA or Cylinder, to be honest. It's not so much of a difference, but the quickset is very different. So you have only one position here, and this feels, yeah, normal, to be honest. You see it's not hackable. We are still in the early 60s. Date is changing correctly, and the quickset now is, as often with these old watches, you go back to the 9, over the 9, and then this is the quickset function, again in full working order. And I said this before, I really like that because it doesn't break. Don't ask me why, but it's very rare that you find a damaged quickset, quickset of this type. Then you have to check, if you buy such a watch, if there is not enough thread for the crown. Sometimes it's a bit worn out, and then you have only 1 or 2 rounds, and sometimes this is not enough to hold the crown in place. Here it's perfectly fine. Works perfectly fine. Overall, the condition is very good. You see that the dial condition is close to perfection, and the reason for this is, of course, the water resistance of the watch. And the case has dings and dangs. This is very, very normal for this type of watch because it was advertised as a rough piece, or a piece for rough duty, and people handled it that way. And so you find your dings and dangs. You can polish them away. You can let them like that. This is really your taste. Interesting is also that the lug with aging is relatively small for such a large diameter. I mean large in the 60s and 70s, but it creates a distinctive look. This nice curve here together with the strap width. This is a Caseback number 1 strap in 18 millimeters. And yeah, fits the style of the watch, fits the color, and so I'm very happy with that. Okay, and now let's put it on the wrist. And there it is on my wrist, 37 millimeter Eterna Kontiki. And yeah, size-wise looks pretty modern, pretty contemporary on that nice strap. Very happy with that ensemble. Really good wrist presence thanks to the lug form and the other elements I've pointed out in this review. All right, let's check it out under broad daylight. Okay, welcome back. I hope you liked that review and I hope you have an impression now about the watch, and I hope some of you have now the idea that this could be a valuable addition for a vintage watch collection. And that's it about watches. But please visit casebackwatches.com, the online shop that keeps everything here afloat, that makes it possible that I can present independent content. Casebackwatches.com for fine watch straps and belts and wallets, you name it. Casebackwatches.com, not a donation, as I often say. There you really get something for your money. Okay, and that's all for this episode. Thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.